Brilliance Audio presents 6 Months to Kill by Enzo Bartoli. Translated by Alexandra Maldwin Davies. Performed by Edward Bauer. I won't be disrupting my routine in any way tonight. Some might see this as a kind of defiance, the knee-jerk reaction of a man who, knowing he is doomed, faces reality with a courage born of despair, confronts death's imminent arrival head-on, refusing him the satisfaction of seeing him crumble. But that's not my style. Actually, my behavior is down to sheer laziness. Every night for years now I've slumped onto my sofa, beer in one hand and packet of crisps in the other, at exactly 6:50 p.m. to get my fix of my game show. I love it. For starters, it gives me a chance to take the mickey out of those morons who have the gall to show up to a TV studio with a knowledge of culture that, at best, comes from flipping through Reader's Digest. Plus, this is the program where there's the most money to be won, and to be honest, I find winning between €100,000 and €1,000,000 every night rather entertaining. It's a piece of cake for me. With an IQ of 162, on top of a visual memory that astounded the droves of pediatric psychologists who examined me as a child, I am unbeatable on practically every subject you could mention. At the age of 7, for example, I'd memorized the list of prime numbers up to 100. By 11, I knew them all the way to 1,000. I gave up when I got to 10,000 at around 14, as I was starting to get bored with it. Incidentally, I then went on to the Luttrell numbers, starting with the smallest candidate, 196. After 2,415,836 iterations, I'd reached 1,000,000 digits without obtaining a palindrome. If I had, I think you'd have heard about it. I also learned Latin in just a few months, but that was more for fun. Contrary to what a lot of people believe, I'm not autistic, and I've never been diagnosed as such. I am simply able to answer 95% of the presenter's questions correctly. The missing 5% is because I'm totally incapable of recognizing a tune. If asked, I'd more than likely get the Beatles mixed up with the Rolling Stones or Bowie confused with Bob Dylan. But I'm quite confident that when it comes to literature, science, or history, there's no tripping me up. So why is it that I'm fine with sprawling out on my sofa and answering questions rather than going for some easy cash and actually taking part in one of these programs? There are 2 reasons for this. The first is that, from a very young age, this exceptionally high IQ of mine has somewhat negatively affected my social life, and the awkward gaffes I tend to make when conversing with my peers end up making me look, at best, cripplingly shy and, at worst, the village idiot, which is incredible, really, for someone with my brains. To make matters worse, and even though I've tried for many years to do something about it, I often speak using outmoded language, including expressions that have long since seen their day. Actually, I don't think I've ever sworn properly, not even when I'm behind the wheel. All this leads me to keep my relationships with fellow members of the human race to an absolute minimum, with only very rare exceptions, which I invariably tend to loathe. The second reason is a lot more mundane. I no longer have any need for money. I received my BSc at 14 and went on to obtain an MSc in Applied Geophysics at 19 before finishing up my doctoral thesis and joining the National Scientific Research Center 3 years later. My salary as a researcher, alongside the courses I teach at the Institute of Astrophysics in Paris, further supplemented by my various missions at CERN in Geneva, has given me a very comfortable standard of living, and has even led to my developing some additional whims that I didn't have before. I live at a very desirable address, to quote the estate agent I dealt with at the time. 33 square meters in Paris's 6th arrondissement, with views overlooking the Jardin du Luxembourg. On the floor below me, there's a couple, one of whom is a TV presenter who's been on air since the invention of color, and the other a former health minister. Upstairs there's a singer who by all accounts is pretty famous too, but I've never heard of him. In the flat opposite, the guy's an author. Actually, he's all right. At least as all right as someone can be, to my mind. There was this one time when we had what might have passed for a conversation in the entrance hall. I felt obliged to let him know that I'd never once read one of his novels. He told me to consider myself lucky, but then gave me a copy of his bestseller. It had won some sort of prize voted for by high school students, the Goncourt, I think. He assured me that he wouldn't blame me in the least if I happened to misplace it. I did start it, though, and I even went online to read what the critics were saying so I could get a better idea as to why people liked it so much. I never dared speak to him of it again. He became a little less friendly after that episode.